is
that we had.
You, like the majority of the members of the Progressive, just say whatever you want to. You just say whatever you want to. You defamed a man who is a legal immigrant, by the way, in the United States of America. You went on a tirade about one of the local small-town facilities that I represent, and everything you said was a damn lie. It was a lie.
May I respond,
Madam Chair, with another lie? 2 medical procedures, both seem deemed to be medically necessary under peer review. Madam Chair, I yield the remainder of my time.
Madam Chair.
That we had.
You, like the majority of the members of the Progressive, just say whatever you want to. You just say whatever you want to. You defamed a man who is a legal immigrant, by the way, in the United States of America. You went on a tirade about one of the local small-town facilities that I represent, and everything you said was a damn lie.
What you just watched wasn't a policy disagreement. It was a collision between accusation and accountability. Because when someone makes a claim that can destroy reputations, you don't get to hide behind vibes. You don't get to wave your hands and say, trust me, not in Congress, not in a hearing, not when real names and real lives are on the line. But here's what makes this moment different. The committee doesn't resolve the facts. It debates the language. And what happens next shows you why.
I've never quite seen an exchange like that.
Yeah.
I think the gentlelady is entitled to.
Mr. McGovern, I'm going to
All right, thank you.
allow Ms. Jayapal a brief response.
Well, let me just first say that it is inappropriate for you to call a member of Congress a liar, and you should take down your words for that. Secondly, I will say that I'm happy to provide all of the testimony from the individuals who had medical procedures performed on them. And you can judge for yourself. But I do not appreciate, Madam Chair, being called a liar. I don't think that's appropriate in this committee. I demand that the gentleman take down his words.
Madam Chair, I do not object to my words being taken down. I should not have called her a liar.
Mr. Scott, just a moment. Ms. Jayapal, I'm happy for you to present to the committee whatever evidence that you have. You know the rules and regulations. You have 5 days to present that information to us. Now I'm going to recognize Mr. Scott because I believe he wants to say something to you.
Good. I appreciate that.
I apologize for calling you a liar. I do believe the things that you said were a lie. I will tell you, Madam Chair, I will ask if I called her a liar. I apologize to the committee, and I will not object to those words being taken down, and I look forward to the presentation of the evidence.
I have a procedural question. Does that count?
Yes, it counts. Yes, it counts. Thank you very much. Ms. Scanlon.
I'd like to yield some time to Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, I don't really think that's good enough,
Yeah,
to be
I
honest
don't
with
either.
you. Because basically it's the same, you're saying the same thing. You know, and we have heated exchanges in this committee. And believe me, there are lots of people that come before this committee that, you know, I need to be restrained in my response because they're so over the top. But I don't believe I've heard anybody ever call a witness a liar in this committee before.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Scott taking back his words. If we were on the floor, Ms. Jayapal, that would be sufficient. I have been in the chair when people's words have been taken down, and I understand what happens in that case. I'd like to move on from this situation and recognize Ms. Scanlon for her questions.
I don't even know whether any of our options that we would normally take advantage of on the floor are available to us today, but it's not just calling somebody a liar, it's calling their words a lie. They're both, to me, equally offensive. And I would wish the gentleman would withdraw all of those statements. I think that would be more appropriate. He could disagree with the statements. He could ask for more information. You know, he could say he has other information that contradicts it, and we can then have that debate. but calling somebody a liar or calling what they just said an absolute lie is the same thing. And I think those words should be stricken from the record.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. I'll give Mr. Scott does not wish to respond.
Madam Chair,
Oh, you do.
this is my district. It's less than 30 minutes from where I live. The medical procedures, there was peer review done on the medical procedures. They were deemed to be medically necessary. The physician won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against NBC Universal for all of the lies that NBC Universal told about him, and referring to him as a uterus collector. I believe is what they were referring to him as. So
Those were not,
those were not your, that's not what you said. It was what NBC Universal said. But no medical procedures, no surgical procedures are done at the Irwin County Detention Facility. They were all done at the local hospital.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Scott. Ms. Jayapal, I will recognize you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been on your committee. I was on your committee for years in Ed and Labor. I've served on the Judiciary Committee for years, including under Republican chairs, and in very contentious debates. And never have I been called a liar. And I will just say that there are a lot of facts that the gentleman is misrepresenting. First of all, I never said those words, uterus collector. Secondly, the lawsuit was settled. There are numerous lawsuits that are settled where there is no finding of wrongdoing. It is a settlement. And there are numerous reasons why that lawsuit was settled. But we can go into all the facts, but for a colleague on the other side of the aisle to sit in this committee, call me a liar, and call the things I say lies is absolutely inappropriate. And I ask you, Madam Chair, because you have been fair when I have asked you these things before, not in this situation, in committee, that he take down all of those words, including that the things I said were lies. That is simply not true. I don't accept it, and I don't appreciate it. I will move on, but I would like to ask that he take down those words.
Well, Mr. Scott has apologized to you, and
so those words will be stricken from the record, that I am a liar and that what I said was a lie?
I believe that they will be.
Great.
As a result
I
of
appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think maybe Ms. Kelley.
Thank you. I now recognize Ms. Scanlon.
Notice what the room does the moment the temperature spikes. Nobody says, okay, let's verify it right now. Nobody says, put the documents on the table. Nobody says, if this is true, it's a scandal. If it isn't, it's a smear. So which is it? Instead, the whole committee pivots to a safer fight. Words. Take down your words. Strike it from the record. Withdraw that phrase. And that tells you something uncomfortable. Because striking words doesn't answer the question. It just lowers the volume. This isn't just about decorum. It's about control. Control of what gets said out loud and what never gets resolved on camera. A serious allegation enters the room. A member tries to pin it to specifics, numbers, peer review, where it happened, and the witness says, I can provide it. But the moment the dispute turns personal, the institution rushes in to protect itself, not with clarity, with protocol. But let's confront the reality head on. If Congress can't demand receipts before reputations get burned, then what exactly is the hearing for? Because hearings are supposed to be where claims face friction, where emotional stories face documentation, where the record gets built carefully so the country can see what's real. But that's not what happens here. What happens here is the modern pattern. When the facts get messy, the argument becomes moral theater. One side frames itself as protecting victims. The other frames itself as protecting truth. And then, instead of proving anything, everyone fights over whether the tone was appropriate. That's how you end up with a clean transcript and a dirty public narrative. And notice what's missing. Nobody walks through the timeline. Nobody cleanly separates what happened at the detention facility versus what happened at a hospital. Nobody forces the basic sequence. Who claimed what based on which documents and what can be verified today? Those are the questions that protect innocent people and protect real victims. But those questions are harder. They don't fit in a viral clip. They don't deliver instant headlines, so they get avoided. And here's the part people forget. Even when the chair strikes the words, the impression stays. The accusation already did its work, and the correction never travels as far as the punch. A claim can go viral in 5 seconds. A correction takes 5 days. And by then, the audience has moved on. But the target of the accusation still lives with the damage. That asymmetry is the fuel of political performance, and it's why this matters. When narrative becomes more valuable than verification, the system rewards the person who can say the most explosive thing with the most confidence, and punishes the person asking the most basic question, show me the proof. So if you want oversight that actually means something, it starts here. It starts with the public refusing to accept "trust me" as evidence and refusing to let procedure substitute for clarity. Because a hearing isn't supposed to be a stage. It's supposed to be a test. Claims either stand or they collapse. What you saw here wasn't a resolution. It was an escape. Through phrasing, through process, through the safety of strike it from the record. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe, comment the one line you think mattered most, and share this. Because the next time this happens, the outcome will depend on whether people start demanding receipts again